My name is Rhapsody, welcome back to Disco Elysium. Let's continue to look in this lorry. Peel the cover off the passenger seat. Voila! A stack of neatly folded papers has been stashed behind the seating fabric. You see 3 maps depicting a large metropolitan area. It's Revachol. Some of its routes and highways have been outlined with a pen. Bon prise. The lieutenant commends you as you shift through the treasure, well worn and folded into neat squares. Fold open the topmost map. This large map displays an elevated motorway called 881. The intake leading to Martinez is marked with a blue X. There's another X at the off-ramp on the place called Old South. Toll booths at the intakes are marked with a circle. It looks like there are a scant few ways of getting onto the elevated motorway that runs over Jamrock, and this person knows all of them. There, hundreds of thousands of motor carriages roar along the 881, high above the mass of brown and red roofs that is Jamrock. The commuters don't even look down. The world ceases to exist outside the windshield. Where does the road lead? To Coron, through the middle-income neighborhoods there, by the river, and then to Stella Marie and La Delta for work, while the men and the women of Jamrock scuttle to their fates below the road. Fold over the second map. This municipal map from the 30s displays a complex system of storm sewers underneath a sub-district called the Pox, Old Military Hospital, right adjacent to the 41st Precinct. No storm will ever drown Revachol, the great solution to the riddle of history. Look at the third map. The final map displays a labyrinth of service tunnels left over from the construction of Motorway 881. A few routes have been marked with a pen, where the tunnels and sewers surface near the eminent domain and the traffic island in central Jamrock by the lake. Looks like the smugglers have infiltrated the road network belonging to the East Motor Tract. The smugglers have infiltrated the motor tract. So it would seem. The lieutenant examines the maps with a furrowed brow. The RCM patrols most of these auxiliary roads, though apparently not all of them. Where does the contraband end up? Hard to say. This distributed network looks certainly large, yet still vague enough. It doesn't reveal much about the Besmati behind it. Besmati? That sounds vaguely familiar. A Besmati is a Revacholian crime syndicate. They see themselves as the inheritors of the 14 Revacholian Indo tribes. But really, they're just violent gangs vying for control on the west side of Revachol. With cool names. Yeah, it's the contempt. Like La Puta Madre and Ahura Mazda. It's a dark parody. What do you think is... who do you think is behind this? It's definitely not the Union. They just do some logistics. This operation has spread everywhere in Jamrock. If it's that widespread, then Madre remains the most likely suspect. He's bad news. Kim removes his glasses and polishes them with his handkerchief. There have been some attempts at a serious investigation before, but they haven't ended well for those involved. Lieutenant Kutsaragi is a brave man for saying Madre's name without the winces and whispers that usually accompany it. Especially bad news for cops who may have something in their past they don't know is there. Return the sack of papers to under the seat. The lieutenant nods. Best not to disturb the stream. I'll have forensics go over the lobby and pick these up later. The stack of maps looks just as before, barely noticeable. The movie stars look silently by the pull-out toolbox and a rubber handle worn from years of use. Pull out the pull-out toolbox. A metallic drawer slides out from the seat. It's empty, except for a folded newspaper. Unfold the newspaper. It's an issue of Peripherique from last Wednesday. A piece of paper falls out of the pages. Pick up the note. It looks like an article ripped from a radio enthusiast magazine. Complex mathematical equations explain the basics of something called the Ulan frequency system. These formulas look oddly painful? Maybe it's the hangover, but they give you a headache. The lieutenant leans over your shoulder to examine the note. The Ulan frequency system? I've never heard of that before. I know of FM, AM, UKV, but... His thought trails off. Pushing the toolbox. Great. I think we got everything. A word, detective? He steps away from the lorry. Before we return to Joyce? What do you mean? Joyce isn't here!
Alright, we've finished here. Let's quickly debrief and go over what we found, so we don't do it in front of the company rep.
Seems like the police would want, seems like something the police would do. What do you think of all this, Kim? Honestly, I'm quite worried by what we found so far. The evidence seems to point to a rather extensive and well-organized operation. I'm especially intrigued by that radio transmitter, particularly the sheer number of stations it can connect to. Looks like an alleged drug trade casts a white net. That means it's well funded. Technology like that, a major player must be financing it. I'm not sure about the Ulan frequencies. No, I'm not sure what the Ulan frequencies are all about, but they may hold some significance. Perhaps it's a better way to connect between fleets with that while avoiding frequency bleed. Or maybe it's used to tap into RCM networks. Listening in on your calls? Between you and your station? Worrying prospect. Oh, and the maps we found. They reveal the geographical extent of the operation. Looks like they've used abandoned tunnels and access roads to stay hidden. This is useful info. Last but not least, it's Ruby's cabin we found. This is an undeniable connection to the Union. What about the movie posters? How do they factor into all this? As elegant as they are, I don't think they are relevant to the drug trade. A lot of women there, especially for a lady driver's cabin. Yes. Well, he doesn't say much more. Unimportant? That's him noting that, yeah, she might be gay. So what? Because at this point, we understand that Kim is gay as well. But I think that's him just like trailing off instead of saying it. The Union's really neck deep with everything around here, isn't it? One way or the other, they seem to be. Logistically, if nothing else. But don't expect to bust this open during our stay here. At best, this is an angle we can use against them. To other ends, as extra ammunition. Meaning someone as slippery as Evrart won't be caught by a couple of cops and some stuff they found in a cabin. Will the RCM open an investigation into this? We should return to the murder case. See what Joyce tells us about the lynching. When we're done for the day, I'll call my station and suggest our narcotics department look into it. There are more than enough grounds to start an official investigation. Sometime later when we're done here. We do not want to get caught in that. He stops to think. What are you thinking, Kim? The fact that one hasn't already started gives me pause. An investigation, I mean. Especially if the Madre grouping is involved. And I can't imagine they aren't. It's certainly worrisome. Corruption? He nods. All the same, I don't like the idea of internal affairs descending on the matter. That won't help anyone either. Okay? Debrief over? Debrief over. He nods. Up to you. Anything new to say, Pale Driver? Nah. Alright. I'm glad we eventually did get to talk to the Pale Driver, but there's no information at all, basically. Hey, Manana. Can you tell me something about the Boydero lifestyle that maybe the Pale Driver will want to know, and then I can talk to the Pale Driver? No.
How can I help you?
Are you striking your share? How large share would you like? You a communist? Right on, brother. Wait, hang on. Seems to spend a lot of time thinking about things. Maybe I'm a Boydero. I could. No, I am. Just in case. I know that I've been told that apparently there's a logic check that I had to fail, or sorry, an encyclopedia check that I had to fail, maybe, in order to get that to actually work. Oh well. Unfortunately, it seems I may have succeeded instead. Like to buy a raincoat? Here you go. The clerk removes the garment from the lower shelf and hands it over. Let's have a read. A transparent plastic raincoat with "Freet Sick" written on the back. The package photo shows a group of happy Revacholians dancing in the rain. +1 to endurance. Endurance is barely ever checked. Okay. Anything else in this area? Anything else in this area? Well, I mean, there is one other thing in this area, and his name's Kuno. Oh, I mean, there's the Hardy Boys that I have to talk to about the drug trade. Oh, Hardies. Come out to play. Oh, Hardies. From the end of the Warriors. All right. What do I want? I mean, none of those. I mean, I could change my clothes.
Coppernato is back. What do you want?
Guess what? I connected you to the local drug raid. Like hell you have. He leans back, unruffled. There is no local drug trade. This place is clean as a rifle. Go back to Jamrock and ask your local junkies how clean your streets are in Precinct 41 kilos. We'll do that. In the meantime, he points south. Did you know there's an abandoned lorry at the intersection that was used to move raw ingredients for drugs from Terminal B to Jamrock? We know Ruby was the driver. We know that's your affiliation with her. He taps on the notebook. Detective, do you want to deliver the coup de grace? No honor. No, do the honor. You've earned it. Not at Lieutenant. Thank you. He turns to the man. You're right, Titus. There is no local drug trade. Because it's all controlled by you. You're the drug trade. That's a mighty interesting theory. He rubs his jaw, smiling. I guess that's what you would need to do, theoretically. A big, strong, state-run monopoly would outcompete the runts on the street. Yeah, man. Theoretically, that's what you would do. To get rid of the gangs, the dealers, even some of the junkies. You'd need good, trustworthy people to take their place, of course. Hardy men to run such an operation. He grins. For the good of the community, of course. Yeah, but that doesn't... But that just sends everyone else to Jamrock, doesn't it? You've just diverted the flow to Jamrock. You've made it our problem. We haven't done anything, but theoretically, it has to be someone's problem, so it might as well be yours. He takes a sip of his beer and smiles. I don't know, the big man says, swirling his beer can. I guess theoretical things don't make me emotional. Now, I was sort of getting my brewski on. What about this Ruby? Is she the 8th Hardy who runs things for you? You sure do love long walks through Teary Town, don't you? The big guy asks, straightening his hat. Well, I'm thirsty now. Thirsty for beer. Got any less theoretical questions, cop? He's practically saying yes. Yes to everything you said. Cool. Fuck no, beer makes me a better driver. I mean, like, a centralized, well-regulated drug production operation. It does remove, as I mentioned before, a lot of financing for the more sinister operations. Practically, I think them running the operation in this area is probably better, but also diverting it to Jamrock is not. One of the things I love so much about this game is, and the reasons that I end up oftentimes on like 5 to 10 minute diatribes before I actually end up picking an answer to any individual thing, is the complexity of all of the moral problems they propose. Like, save the fascist options, the, you know, like, oh, why don't we just kill everyone who looks different kind of options. Most of them have some grounding philosophical argument that you could use to try and argue for them. I'm not going to say they're all good, and one of them is completely invalid. Again, the fascistic ones. Don't at me. In fact, do at me. I'll just straight up... Anyway, let's get back to Cindy. I don't think there are any fascist sympathizers around. Don't worry. I don't think they would have made it to episode whatever of this. Or possibly past my icon. It's not you I want to talk to, it's Cindy. The aisle there was, I'll just shadow ban. But they're not around, thankfully.
Hello again, officers. Have you come to admit?
I got like no conceptualization. I like one shirt that does it. There's some conceptualization. I have nothing lowering it. That's all I can really do. Well, I mean, I can do it, and I can try and re-roll. I can level up and... No, I can't level up and try and re-roll. No. Into the building. Note, Union Encrypted Zoology business might end when you do. I mean, I'm done with zoology already. And the Union, I guess. Check Island. Woolly Traces. Can't go there yet. Van Eyck. This may take a while. That may take a while. There's still stuff that takes a while? Report back to Joyce. I can't report back to Joyce. Joyce is gone. There are a couple of these that it feels like the game can get out of order, and then it's like, oh, okay. Like this, like get boots off the victim's feet. Oh, the victim's gone. I can't do anything about that.
Hello again, officers. Have you come to admire my mural?
I would have to level up so many times in order to do this. I'd rather use my levels to try and reroll whites. It's a failure. They say the painter always paints his own portrait. Man, that's lame. No, it's great. I'm gonna paint a self-portrait, but sort of, you know, from the inside to show people what it's like. That's pretty fucked up, even for you, Piggo. Okay, I won't do that. Please just give me a paint and some brush. I need to do some art. You're a real sad sack, you know? Go ahead then. She drops the paintbrush at your feet. Art it up. Just try not to help yourself. And no self-portraits. Thanks, Cindy. Pick up the brush. Sure. Anytime. Our shit artists have to help one another. She looks down the wall and frowns. Besides, I was out of fuel oil anyway. She only gave it to you because she doesn't see you as competition. The right idea is not coming to her. It's excruciating. You know what? You know what you've got in that fuel canister you scavenged from your kinema? Red-dyed heavy fuel oil, paint, and a brush. You're ready to do this. Ooh, baby, let's go do it. I'm ready. What is my art piece going to be? Do I get to choose? I love that failing that actually gave it to me as well, by the way. That's sweet. Okay. The other things that I need to finish up in this area. Reading all the books that I just picked up. That's a huge thing. Going and interacting with Suna. I don't think I know anything about the Pale. I don't know anything more about the Pale than I knew last time. Alright, hang on. A paintbrush belonging to Cindy the Skull, an aspiring artist. Its bristles smell nauseatingly of heavy fuel oil. Specks of red, orange, and green paint cover the aluminium ferrule. I do get the choice. The paintbrush in your hand like a loaded revolver. What will it be, Desperado? Quite a few things come to mind. Fuck the police. I love you, Kuno. Mother of all walls. What shadow lies there beneath the bright gleam? Draw a 3,500-year-old pictogram of a human being. Renee lives. That sucks. Something beautiful is going to happen. No parking. Oh my god. So let's go by the process of elimination. I think it's hilarious if a policeman paints "fuck the police" on a sign. I think that's real funny. I love you, Kuno. Nah. I think Kuno would be incredibly embarrassed about. I think it would be funny because it would embarrass Kuno. I think that would be funny, actually. Mother of all walls. I like that as well. The kind of like like not really making a statement whatsoever. What shadow lies there beneath the bright gleam? Nah, I'm fine. I don't need it to try and be serious. A 3,500-year-old pictogram of a human being, I imagine would be a stick figure. I don't want that. Renee lives is literally just like, oh, look, the fascist thought is alive. So no, obviously. Something beautiful is going to happen. No. And no parking. I think no parking is hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. So it's fuck the police or no parking, I think. I think the funniest thing is to write fuck the police with a lieutenant next to me. It's so good. The lieutenant looks up at the wall in disarray. But we are the police. You're right. Is it too late to change it? The lieutenant raises his eyebrows, then sighs. The wall towers above you with its indelible message. I want to tell Cindy what I wrote. Wait, can I talk to Cindy from down here?
Hello again, officer.
I can! I could have saved myself so much time over the course of the run. There's like a house in the apartment building that I can break into, but that's a dumb idea. Why would I just randomly break into a house? All right. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is read my books. Let's start with Dick Mullen and the Mistaken Identity. Another Dick Mullen book woefully misrepresenting the police work. In this one, our detective returns from a trip, having successfully solved a 100-year-old cold case, only to embark on another. Does he finally face the taxing nature of his occupation? No. He doesn't even look like a normal law officer. In your hand, you hold Dick Mullen, The Mistaken Identity. The brittle paperback feels fragile to the touch. Examine the cover. The cover features a pastiche of different scenes. In the foreground, a man in a dark overcoat clutches a pistol to his chest. Rising up behind him are two silhouettes wrapped in passionate embrace. The tagline reads, Detective Dick Mullen must prove his innocence after an old friend is murdered by someone that looks exactly like Dick Mullen. That seems to sum up the premise nicely. Needless to say, it violates nearly every RCM regulation for a detective to investigate a murder in which he is the suspect. Are you really reading that, detective? I'm looking for advice on being a real detective. Well, you won't find it in there. Those books are much more about ravishing dames and gunplay than real police work. Start reading. The story opens with a knock at the door. Detective Dick Mullen is greeted by an old friend, Charlie Spillane, who's come to Mullen to ask for a favor on this dark and cold night. Spillane needs Mullen to drive him from Vespa to a small town along the Insular Indian coast. Despite his friend's apparent agitation, Mullen does as he's asked and returns home, where he passes out drunk, as he does most nights. An extremely unprofessional and hurtful stereotype that's offensive to all upstanding officers of the law. Look, I can't judge. 2 days later, Mullen is arrested by the Vespa police and charged with the murder of Charlie Spillane. At his interrogation, Mullen learns that Charlie Spillane was shot in a bar in the very town Mullen had dropped him off in, by a man matching Mullen's description. Desperate to clear his name, Mullen manages to convince the Vespa police to release him for 3 days so that Mullen may solve his friend's murder and prove his innocence. The cops release their prime murderer suspect so he can find the real killer? Are you shitting me? What's the matter, detective? Lieutenant turns to you with a start. I don't know who's writing this shit, but I get the feeling they aren't experts on homicide investigations. Lieutenant shrugs, resigned to the idea that his profession will rarely, if ever, be accurately represented in art and literature. Okay, so Mullen didn't do it. Keep reading. Of course Mullen didn't do it. That's the whole premise of the book. Anyway, Mullen returns to the seaside bar where Spillane was murdered and meets a beautiful, mysterious woman named Diana Diana Deneuve. Sure. Now it's getting interesting. Deneuve reveals that she was Spillane's lover and that he was mixed up in the local amphetamine smuggling operation. As soon as Mullen begins pulling at the strings, the whole conspiracy begins to unravel. Not only is the local police captain in on the amphetamine ring, so is the son of a powerful politician and a strung-out art collector named Torvald. Torvald? No, it's Tierbald in the other book. Okay, Torvald. Each of whom has his own reasons for wanting Spillane dead. Tell me about the corrupt police captain. Outwardly, the old police captain is a real law and order crypto-fascist, a barrel-chested man who's beaten his fair share of suspects to a pulp. But he's also dirty, and increasingly paranoid that someone's going to expose his role in the drug ring. He would certainly have the motive and the means, but the captain walks with a noticeable limp from an old war injury. Is it possible he was able to conceal it long enough to commit the murder? I want to hear about the policeman's son. A typical privileged twat. In all likelihood, he's in just over his head. He does bear a personal grudge against Spillane, though a former prosecutor who nearly brought down his father's... He does bear without having the context of the full sentence, sometimes it's hard to read it with the right tone. He does bear a personal grudge against Spillane, though. A former prosecutor who nearly brought down his father's administration. There you go. The kid doesn't exactly have Dick Mullen's manly build, but he is the correct height, and while interrogating him at his home, Mullen did notice a certain overcoat that looks suspiciously like his own. Okay, what about that art collector? Torvald the art collector is a strung-out mess. Frankly, it's hard to imagine him holding a pistol steady enough to actually hit someone, let alone plug them 3 times in the chest the way old Spillane did. That said, Torvald and Spillane have a long history, and while interrogating him, Mullen discovers that Torvald was once involved with Diana Deneuve. Could it have been over a sordid love triangle? Okay, let's get on with the story. One evening, Diana Deneuve comes to Mullen's hotel room in tears. The two of them drink half a bottle of vodka, and soon they're seeking comfort in each other's arms. Well, that testimony won't be admissible any longer. Nice. Get it, Mullen. As the two lovers share a post-coital cigarette, Diana Deneuve turns to Mullen and says, "By the way, Dick, there was something else I meant to tell you." I love you? The name of the true killer? Whatever it is, Mullen never hears the words. A blow to the base of his skull knocks him out cold instantly. Fuck. When Mullen comes to, Deneuve is dead on the hostel bed next to him. To make matters worse, his clothes are covered in her blood. Double fuck! Mullen trashes his bloodstained clothes and flees the hostel, knowing it's only a matter of hours before the cops discover Deneuve's body if they haven't already been tipped off. Fleeing a crime scene, destroying evidence. Even if Detective Mullen didn't commit the murder, he should be facing years behind bars. Dick Mullen won't be sent to the clink for the sake of some legal niceties. The heat is on. If Dick Mullen can't solve both murders before the cops catch up to him, he's going away for life. Can you solve the case before the cops come in? Wait, I've got some questions first. What is it, detective? Why does everyone close to Dick Mullen end up dead? It's a dangerous line of work. Someone has to do it, though. That's why Dick Mullen never lets anyone get too close. Just steeped in tropes. What's the matter? Afraid you've been hacking up your friends' bodies in the night? Have you gone over everyone? Is anyone missing? Why did Dick Mullen become a detective in the first place? There was never a time he wasn't a detective. He was born a detective. Was I not born to be a detective? For a moment, you cease to read the story on the page and see the book for what it is. A collection of brittle, cheaply printed pages held together by glue made from hooves of a horse. You won't find the answers you're looking for in here, in other words. Why bother solving crimes when the world is so evil? Is it really so evil, detective? Okay, maybe not. There are parts worth saving. Like what? I mean, all of these. The smooth taste of some ultra-high-proof brews. Ultra-high-proof booze, rather. There are worse things in the world than the pursuit of chemical pleasures, but there are better things too. I don't have any more questions. I've figured it all out. So who did it, detective? Who killed Charlie Spillane and Deanna Deneuve? Love did them in, the dirty police captain, the junkie art collector, the politician's twat son, Dick Mullen. Okay, I think it's the dirty police captain. I think we got let out of the jail so that we could go on a wild goose chase trying to look for a murderer, and then we could get framed double hard. And in this way be framed in a way that could not be like, I was out of town at the time. Dirty police captain. Could be. Who knows? Only one way to find out. Finish the book. You begin furiously flipping through the pages. Even as you know these books follow a series of well-worn tropes, you find yourself completely engrossed. You're turning the pages so fast you don't even notice the ancient spine coming unglued. You try to grab the pages as they come loose, but your fingers aren't quick enough. They're gone. Dozens of pages scatter across the ground. The last fifth or so of the book seems to have been lost. It's possible you could gather and reassemble the pages, but it would take way too long. Stupid old horse glue. Yes, the problem with mass makeup paperbacks. They're not made to last. Perhaps this is a sign that you should get back to solving your own murder, detective. In your hand, you hold the 4/5 of Dick Mullen, the mistaken identity. Put the book away. Wural. Large letters on the front form a title. Wural. The colorful box is illustrated with bucolic vistas. The cover art also features some odd-looking humanoids, some short, some taller, some with pointy ears, others with ephemeral wings. Examine the box. Text under the title reads in a smaller typeface, 3rd edition, Mega Setting Supplements module. The side panel adds a sword and sorcery game, adventure board game with new maps and miniatures. Shake the box. Mysterious things rattle around inside. What could they be? Dice? Plastic miniatures? A fantastical alternate world of magic and wonder? None of that witless man from Hemdall fascist dross hidden behind a faux realistic allegory. Wural is no cliche-written apologia for colonial violence. Wural is pure imagination. Yes, the Wural setting is known for its complicated systems of political alignments, but if you're not into that, you can just hack your way through the dungeons in search of loot. That's what most people do. Look at the back. A blurb on the back reads, "Tired of the tedium and toil of modern life? Escape to Wural. Leave behind isolas and nations with their petty squabbles, discard electricity, magnets, and boring technological widgets. Succumb to the world of hypersternal fantastique. Unleash your imagination and create an adventure of endless possibilities. Discover your terrible secret, the terrible secret threatening Wural. Can your band of adventurers save the world?" Yeah, we're ready to take on the challenge. Exactly, that's the spirit. All you need to do is read the intricate rulebook, study an assortment of maps, unfold the illustrated game board, and start rolling dice. In no time, you could be romping through the grasslands with low-level characters, hunted by Iskel riders, or battling unspeakable monsters in the endless dungeons fraught with danger and despair, conjuring up forceful magics to aid you in your quest. Open the box. You pry open the box. Inside you find a folded up map, a small booklet, a 24-sided die, and a little plastic figurine. Look at the map. A reprint of the crude hand-drawn map. The top left corner reads, Lands of Wirral. The map features both small villages and mid-sized towns with odd names, in addition to meadows, forests, hills, lakes, and seas, also with odd names. It doesn't seem to correspond with anything you've seen thus far. It's not a very helpful map. Look at the booklet. A quick guide to the magical races of Wirral. Create your own hero from choosing any of these completely unique and fantastical backgrounds. The options are, in order of importance, the Welkin, the Dwarg, the humans, the fairy folk, and the Pygmies. Read about the Welkin. The Welkin, tall, lithe, and graceful with long flowing hair and pointy ears. They're known for being powerful magic users, but can also hold their own in a brawn-driven fight. The Welkin come with a variety of exciting sub-races: High Welkin, Forest Welkin, Lake Welkin, and Snow Welkin. But if you're not feeling experimental, a basic Welkin will always do. Read about the Dwarga. A grand race of industrious mountain people. They're short, stout, and muscular, and enjoy digging for gold and other precious minerals. They're also well-versed in the art of combat, where they prefer to use axes and hammers. The Dwarga come from few different sub-races: Hill Dwarga, Shield Dwarga, and Dark Dwarga. Read about the humans. They're just humans. What else is there to tell? They're average in all stats and jack of all trades. Read about the fairy folk. A very small race of flying people known for being mischievous and full of trickery. They often lure people into their magical traps. There are no sub-races for the fairies. Read about the Pygmies. The least popular of all of the Wirral races, the Pygmies are short, rotund, and dim-witted. Pygmies live in small villages of shoddy wooden dwellings. They spend most of their days tilling the earth and smoking their pipes. There are no sub-races for the Pygmies. Okay, so that's, what, like, elves, dwarves, fairy folk. Flying, small. I got nothing on that one, and then these are obviously halfling. Look at the die. It's made from some sort of wood and has been decorated with peculiar plant motifs. You don't know much about dice, but this one looks pretty damn fancy. Take the die. You place the die on your pocket. It's always good to have luck on your side. Look at the figurine. You see a man in ragged clothes wearing a lopsided hat and fielding some sort of firearm. Huh, interesting. A communard. A what? A communard. One of the leftist revolutionaries in the anti-Sennial revolution. What's so interesting about that? No, that doesn't sound Wirral-like. It is not. The communards are not a part of the game setting. I guess someone misplaced it in the packaging process. Maybe someone should make a role-playing game set during the revolution. Good luck finding people you'd want to play as the communards. Take the figurine. You pick up the figurine by the base to meet your gaze. The little plastic man stares back at you, his face contorted into a disturbing shout. Then you pocket it. And put the box away. Let's have a look at that. Standard Wirral die. This basic 24-sided role-playing die can be used to get results for several dice. It's made of East Semini snake wood and embellished with plant motifs. It reminds you of plain and hill welkins. No, look at the map journal to see what white checks have been... What, my white checks reopened? Because I got another die? Really? Joyce? She's not there. She's not there. She's definitely... She's not there. These checks haven't reopened, apparently. So it barely did anything, is what you're saying. It didn't really do anything. All right. A figurine set, revolutionary. What a nice figurine. Turn of the century leftist revolutionary in ragged clothes. On his head lies a lopsided hat, seemingly an Ushanka. In his hand, he carries a little musket. Yep, that's us. And Suzerainty. In your hands, you hold a brand new copy of the game Suzerainty. It's snugly wrapped in a skin of plastic. The cover features a charming illustration depicting a mass of grinning laborers loading goods onto a ship while a richly dressed administrator oversees their work. The exact location of the time period are left deliberately vague, but it's clearly meant to represent the economic relationship between the Revacholian Suzerainty and its many vassals. Shake the box. The box has a nice heft to it. You hear the rattle of individual wooden tokens, feel their weight shifting back and forth. What treasures wait in store for you? Remove the plastic wrap. Even before you open it, you can tell this will be a meaty game of grand strategy and complex player interactions. The plastic wrap rips off easily as the bonus of the tawdry historical romance. As a bonus in a tawdry historical romance. Open the box. There's a hiss as the lid slides off. Inside you find a thick, full-color rulebook and more than a dozen pouches of various wooden components. Savor that new board game smell. A mix of wood, paper, and ink, all wrapped in the sweet must of cardboard. There actually is like a straight-up new board game smell, and I love it. Read the rulebook. Welcome to Suzerainty, a game of economic strategy for the whole family. The rulebook is sumptuously illustrated and thick as a Gradian novel. Economic strategy? Sounds more like rapacious plunder and exploitation. These colorful illustrations depict cheerful workers picking apricots. Oh, the apricot suzerainty, really? Picking apricots, hauling marble sculptures out of crumbling temples, and harvesting a strange magenta-leafed plant. Everyone's smiling. You begin to suspect there may be a political agenda to the so-called family game. Only one way to find out, keep reading. The instructions are opaque at first, and introduce many concepts you're not familiar with. Fortunately, there are many diagrams and examples throughout. You soon figure out the basic conceit. Each player represents an administrator for the suzerain of Revachol. Your objective is to increase the suzerain's wealth and renown by accumulating victory points. Fuck the suzerain, what about my renown and wealth? There's no path to wealth and renown but through the suzerain. As one of the suzerain's trusted administrators, your very function is the glorification of Revachol. That's where the suzerain's vassals come in. The game features 4 vassal nations, each one home to an economically important resource. Each turn, the players collect resources from vassals where they're placed workers, so it's a worker placement game. They may then rearrange their workers, fulfill contracts for coin and bonuses, or build structures back in Revachol. As you leaf through the pages, your eye catches on a sidebar labeled Advice for Beginners. Read the advice. Remember, there are many paths to victory in Suzerainty, but successful players will figure out one strategy and commit to it wholeheartedly. Boring! Tear up this rulebook and commit some old school atrocities. Isn't there a way to invade or commit atrocities or... No. Oh, good lord. Yikes, I'm glad I don't have much Half-Light, actually. It's only been telling me to do real shitty things. How is the winner determined? The actual scoring system appears infinitely complex, with a series of tables and appendices required to compute each player's final victory point. Total. You skip that part for now. Examine the components. You'll open up a number of pouches containing wooden tokens. There are also several punch boards with other cardboard components that will need to be punched out before you can play. Punch them out one by one. Each cardboard token makes a satisfying as you push it out. Soon, a neat pile of cardboard coins and counters is accumulated before you. Wait, you're not going to offer to let me punch any of them out? Every time we open a new board game in this house, every single time, we share. We share the cardboard cutout sheets so you can actually punch out the tokens. Oh, it's half of the fun. Honestly, half of the fun is reading the box and half of the fun is punching out the tokens, which basically does mean there's no fun in actually playing the board game. You might as well throw it away at that point. Check out the wooden tokens. In addition to worker and building tokens used by each player, there are also several piles of colorful resource tokens, each representing one of the game's 4 principal resources. From the Empire of Safra, orange apricot tokens. From Ilmara, the ancestral name of Ilmara, grain marble block tokens. From the Seminine Islands, white sacks of sugar tokens. And from Supramunda and Saramiriza, magenta tokens for unprocessed cocaine leaves. Oh, those are nice. The lieutenant picks up a sugar token and admires it. Put the components away. Hey Kim, wanna play? Lieutenant looks over the rulebook before he sees something that makes his eyes go wide. Holy shit. The average playing time for this game is 1 to 6 hours. I'm not sure we can afford to set aside that kind of time for a game. So he says, but his gaze lingers for a moment on the rulebook and then for a moment longer on the rulebook than is strictly necessary. He could make time if he really wanted to. So let's quickly I have like a couple things for suggestion, right? I think one of these at the very bottom actually helps me. Yeah, that's some suggestion from that. Then I think I have one other suggestion buff. I just bought it, right? What was it? Ah, there it is. Oh, no. Right, into Iceberg, but we've still got... Fair enough. I don't like the concept behind the game, but I still kind of want to play it. Mainly because I want to play with Kim. What is detective work if not an elaborate game? You need logical inference, attention to detail, the ability to analyze your opponent's motives. Come on, it might help us think of more creative solutions to the case. I do feel like my thinking has become somewhat rigid. Maybe a little diversion to keep my mind limber is what's in order. See? He's doing the hard work himself. All he needed was a little nudge. Alright, you convinced me. How do we play? I'll read the rules. I read the rules already. I'll show you. You examine the basic rules, set up procedures to the lieutenant, who seems to be a quick study. You each take your bags of tokens and counters and unfold the board between you. In the center is the crown of Revachol. Radiating outwards are her... Oh, I should have put logic gear on. Dang. Are her colorful vassals, each one supplying some raw material desired by the suzerain. Apricots from Safra, archaeological treasures from Ilmara, sugar from the Seminine Islands, and magenta cocaine from Supramundi and Saramariza. There's also a neat little log to keep track of your process, in case you want to put the game away and return to it later. Oh my god, are we actually going to play like a full game right now? The lieutenant goes first. He draws a contact card and moves several of his workers to the Safra territory of the board and the others to the Seminine Island. Alright, detective, your turn. You have a few options available to you. Will you try and fulfill contracts right away or rearrange your workers to maximize production on your future turns? I always go for production first. Remember what the rulebook says. You want to choose a strategy early on and stay committed to it. Let your workers rest for a while. What? Rearrange my workers. I guess I'll let them rest, because that must be to rearrange them for maximum production on future turns. What? It's the very beginning of the game. Your workers haven't even done any work yet. Okay, make them work a little bit, not too much. That's more like it. You produce a handful of archaeological treasures and a smattering of other resources. Meanwhile, the lieutenant spends 2 of his sugar and 1 of his apricot tokens to complete his contract card. He's rewarded with 4 coins and a round wooden token that he places in the center of the board. That's a market. It's worth 2 victory points. Hey Kim, can I use my first turn over? I think I messed up. That always happens when you play a new game. Hey, why don't I get one of those? Don't worry. It was mostly just luck. You'll earn some points soon enough. What is that patronizing tone? You're one of the Suzerain's most trusted advisors. You might need to put the lieutenant in his place. I'm not even sure what the points are. That's part of the problem. Points are nothing. They don't exist. They're just an arbitrary convention that games use to reward or punish players for certain behaviors. Am I getting points now? Look around. Lieutenant shrugs. There are some paranoid types who believe the moral intern keeps detailed score sheets for everyone in the yard beds, but that's obviously nonsense. Otherwise, no. There are no points. Your actions and consequences. Just your actions and the consequences of those actions. Just like there are no honor points. None whatsoever. That's reassuring. That's just the way it is. The lieutenant doesn't seem to find much value in dwelling on the subject. No, I believe it is your turn. Glancing over the board, you see several possible strategies. Pressing more workers into service would increase your economic output and help you survive in a possible conflict with the lieutenant. Or you could ignore your labor supply and focus on fulfilling contracts for points and resources. Those aren't your only options. You could also show your workers how much you appreciate them by investing some of that wealth in them. After all, they're the ones producing wealth for the suzerain. Well, sure, you can do that. It's just not a terribly effective strategy. But then again, it's up to you. Invest in your existing workers. To the lieutenant's puzzlement, you spend several turns building various improvements to your territorial infrastructure. Soon, your workers have access to clean water, paved roads, and basic hobbies. In return, they produce 1 extra resource a turn. Gaze on your workers like a benevolent parent. Too bad investing in your workers isn't worth earning points. What do you mean? Take a look at the scoring table on the back. Lieutenant turns to one of those appendices you skipped over earlier. You see in table 8C that investing in territorial infrastructure multiplies your final victory point by 1x, which is to say, not at all. Whereas erecting monuments in Revachol gives you a multiplier of 5x. So you're saying the values of the ruling class are completely divorced from the well-being of the people who generate their wealth? Yes, precisely. Nonsense. Remember what the lieutenant said? If points are arbitrary, who cares about winning? You should just reject their system and play how you want. Exactly. Now it's the lieutenant's turn to respond. He moves aggressively into Safra territory. Soon his workers are producing a steady supply of extremely valuable apricots. How can you let the lieutenant dominate you like that? You need to hit back, and hard. For several turns, you struggle to respond, and to the lieutenant's burgeoning apricot empire. Eventually, you relocate the majority of your workers to Supramunde and Samariza, where they begin producing a bumper crop of cocaine tokens. You draw a new contract card. According to the text, there's an aristocrat willing to trade a large supply of cocaine for a number of coins and access to a rare bonus, amplified music, worth 7 victory points. You know, this isn't unlike the situation the historical Revacholian Suzerainty faced in Safra in the middle of the last century. Tell me more. Well, the suzerain was looking for new markets for all the cocaine it was producing, and it settled on Safra. By introducing cocaine into Safra under exclusive contract, the suzerain created an extremely valuable captive market for an extremely addictive product. That's fucked up. If you could somehow get the lieutenant's workers addicted to your cocaine, you could not only make them less productive, but you would also force the lieutenant to pay you for your cocaine tokens each turn. Can you even do that? Yeah, you can. It's right there in the rules. Now's your chance. Show the lieutenant what happens when he patronizes you. You've reached a critical strategic juncture. How do you respond to the lieutenant's aggression? Rock and roll, baby. Go for the contract. Give back to the workers. Sorry, Kim, you're not going to like this. Introduce lieutenant's workers to cocaine. If the points don't matter, I would prefer to express myself through the game. Give back to the workers. Instead of focusing on amassing points, you embark on a quixotic project to win the hearts of your worker tokens. After several turns, you've unlocked advanced hobbies and health insurance. Your workers now produce an extra 2 resources per turn. You do realize the work game is called Suzerainty and not Workers' Paradise, right? I'm just trying to do right by the people who actually generate the suzerain's wealth. I'm rejecting the arbitrary so-called point system developed by the game's politically compromised game designers. Yes, you're really sticking it to the game designers. Just like I'm about to stick it to you. The lieutenant continues his strategy of aggressively producing apricots for export. He fulfills contract after contract, wrapping up even more victory points. The end game is upon you. What will your crowning achievement as the suzerain's territorial... what will be your crowning achievement, rather, as the suzerain's territorial administrator? You could continue your efforts to win the hearts of your worker tokens by building the rarely attempted public education system for your territories. Alternatively, you could actually try to win the game by building the extremely valuable victory column in Revachol, or by crushing the lieutenant in a devastating trade war. Build a public education system for your workers. Your commitment to doing right by your workers pays off, and you manage to construct the rarely attempted public education system. You truly have the best educated worker tokens in the entire world. Unfortunately, you were sent to the territories to produce raw resources, not overly educated second-class citizens. If anything, this might negatively impact your final score. See, I warned you that investing in your workers wasn't going to pay off. You told me that points were arbitrary. I decided to play the game how I wanted instead. Lieutenant opens his mouth as if to issue a blistering retort and then hesitates. You know, detective, there's something admirable about that in its own way. Now let's tally up the scores, shall we? Computing the final scores is almost a game unto itself. You spend an inordinate amount of time stacking coins, consulting tables, and struggling with basic addition and multiplication. After double and triple checking your maths, you have your final score. 2 points. Though you're beloved by your well-educated worker tokens, the suzerain is immensely displeased and recalls you from your post. The lieutenant looks up from his tabulations. I've got 20 points, he says with measured pride. Hey, at least you went out playing the game you wanted. There's something to be said for that. Now let's clean up and get back to work. See, if everyone decided to play that way, despite the fact that there are, institutional objects in the way, if everyone played that way, the world would be great for everyone. In exclusively this board game. I'm not talking about real life. I don't know what you're talking about. A possible allegory or metaphor. I don't know what you're talking about. That's just for Suzerain. What do you mean, golden rule? I don't know what you're talking about, but I know what you're talking about if you say the episode is 10 minutes too long at the moment. My name's Rhapsody. The name of the game has been Disco Elysium. Hopefully you've been enjoying yourselves, and hopefully we'll see you next time.